Morning. My name is Patrice Nganang. I am a writer, a university professor, a husband, and a father. I'm originally from Cameroon, where I was arrested in December 2017, jailed, and from where I was expelled. The reason I was arrested, jailed, and expelled, and all charges against me were dropped, is that I wrote an article and testified for the English-speaking minority of Cameroon that is currently being genocided. Back then, nothing of such magnitude was happening. Indeed, Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon, had just declared war against the English-speaking Cameroonians, or these separatists, as he called them. And I expressed dissent against his decision. I said further that he would lose that war. Instead of listening to me, he arrested me, or his people arrested me, and put me in jail and took away my passport and paid themselves for my ticket to expel me to the United States. I am speaking out today, and I haven't stopped speaking out because I'm a writer and I write books. I've written books and articles, etc. I'm speaking out because what was then a conflict, what was then a dispute, what was then even simply a misunderstanding about the position of the minority in Cameroon has become a genocide against that minority. So I make this video to say one or two things I think are important. The first is about genocide. I would like to say that my understanding, and I think it is the classical and the general understanding of genocide, is the intentional use of violence against one ethnic, one linguistic, etc. group of people, which is exactly what is happening in Cameroon right now. So the Cameroonian government, I accuse the Cameroonian government of genocide. I accuse the President of the Republic of Cameroon of genocide. And I accuse his tribe, the Bulu, the ones that populates the military, the administration, and social service, of actually putting that genocide in motion. I'm going to say that these accusations are cheap, and I recognize that they are very cheap. Therefore, I would like to say that I am very much relieved that a resolution was introduced in Congress by Representative Karen Bass. It is her second resolution. This time, when she introduced it, and she was supported by very important Democrats, for instance, Dick Durbin, and I really applaud that resolution. During her presentation, she mentioned the word genocide twice. And that is unique because it automatically goes into the record of Congress. On June the 29th, something equally important happened because a Swiss representative introduced a petition to have Biya leave or be expelled, if you want, from Geneva, where he usually goes to spend half the year. Introducing his petition, he also mentioned the word genocide. The consequence of that is that genocide is now tagged on what is happening in Cameroon. So it is not something that can be taken lightly when people, representatives from two different continents, from two different countries, address the issue, address the war, address the killings that are going on in Cameroon, and mention the word genocide. That is momentous. It is very important, and that is what I would like to address today. What is interesting is that the voice of the Cameroonian government did come in the mix of all that, because Representative Karen Bass, after introducing that legislation carrying her name to Congress, with the voices of Representative Urban, I said, she flew to Cameroon with a group of people, and she flew to Cameroon to actually listen to the Cameroonian voice, to see what is happening on the ground, to understand the complexity of the conflict, and to effectively see by herself if a genocide is happening in Cameroon. So she met, at least that is what I saw on the news, she met with the Prime Minister, John Goody. It is important for me to say here that while she was in Cameroon, Biya was not there. He was in Switzerland. He was in a hotel Intercontinental, where he usually spends half a year. He will subsequently be expelled from Switzerland. That one is known, and it actually went across the board in the news. But important is that Representative Karen Bass was in Cameroon. She met with Cameroonian authorities, but she was denied access to the place where the killings are happening. And indeed, she wanted to go there. She wanted to go to the English-speaking part of Cameroon. She wanted to see by herself what is happening there. She wanted to touch the ground of genocide, but she was denied access to the place. And that is important to underline, particularly because the Prime Minister of Cameroon himself is an Anglophone. Himself is English-speaking. So what he did is to deny somebody who introduced a legislation about Cameroon, mentioned the word genocide. He denied access to the place she came to Cameroon to see. He made it impossible for her to go and witness. That one is very much important, because the second thing he did, the second thing the Cameroon government did, was to send a file about what's going on in the northwest and the southwest of Cameroon to Representative Karen Bass, although she had come to Cameroon herself to see all those things. I am underlining those two moments because the last Western representatives who came to Cameroon was from France. It was the representative of Macron, and he came to Cameroon, and he went to the southwest. He did not go to the northwest, to Bamenda, so he went to Biya. But during his trip, he was shot at, or at least that is what is alleged. And since then, most trips from people coming from Douala to Biya or to Bamenda have been very much impossible, particularly when the officials, even the governor of the southwest, Bilai, was shot at. And some of the most horrific pictures we have are pictures of convoys driving through the landscape of the southwest or of the northwest and shooting their way through. So I suspect the Prime Minister of Cameroon did not want a representative from the US to shoot her way through a region where the Cameroonian government is effectively committing a genocide. I suspect that is the reason why the Cameroonian government did not want Karen Bass to see the plight of English-speaking Cameroonians like I did, because I would like to also mention that before my arrest, I had taken the time to drive around the northwest of Cameroon, to drive around the southwest of Cameroon, and I had spent 2 weeks living with people, talking to them, spending time with them, understanding their plight. And I did it during the moment when Biya was declaring war against them, and shortly after that. And of course, when I was leaving the place, I was arrested and incarcerated. Such an experience is something that has been denied to anybody coming from outside and denied by the Cameroonian government. I am very much sure it is something that Representative Karen Bass wanted to do, and it is what the Cameroonian government did not want her to do. Now, what did the Cameroonian government do at the same time when Representative Karen Bass was introducing legislation to have Cameroon actually acknowledge that it is committing a genocide, or in other words, have the world know that a genocide is happening in Cameroon? And at the same time, when Switzerland or a Swiss representative was introducing a petition mentioning the fact that a genocide is happening in Cameroon. What did the Cameroonian government do apart from denying access to the place where a genocide is happening? This is where it starts becoming interesting, and this is where I become a centerpiece of that story. I was actually simply tipped by some of my friends that my name was running in the media. An old video of me in which I was organizing my community, the Bamileke people, because I am Bamileke, in which I was organizing my community using the tools they know to put them together. An old video of mine started circulating. That video, I made it, by the way, on February the 17th, 2019. So it is a video that I made in the process of a campaign that was not starting yet, because the most important opposition leader in Cameroon, Maurice Kamto, was arrested, and his whole staff, the most important figures in his party, all of them were arrested in January 26, 2019 and put in jail without any single reason. And the reason of the arrest, as far as the government is concerned, was that they had protested the results of the elections that happened in October 2018. In any case, during the first month of the arrest, people were stunned, particularly because there was no reason for that arrest. Maurice Kamto is Bamileke too, and I am Bamileke, but most of the people of his staff who were arrested, or at least the heads of his party, are not Bamileke. But the majority of the people who were arrested with them, and we are talking about around 500 people, are all Bamileke, if not mostly Bamileke. So now I was saying, in the process of that, people were stunned, and they were expecting those detainees actually to be freed quickly, because there's no reason why somebody would be arrested simply for protesting results. So it turned out that he will be tried by the military tribunal for charges of treason, and I suspect even of terrorism, etc. And since then, they are in jail. Today is July the 9th. So it is more than 5 months after the arrest. They are still in jail. And we are talking here about around 500 people, most of whom are Bamileke. So on February the 17th, I expressed a surprise and outrage, not specifically at everybody, but at the fact that most Cameroonians were silent, that most Cameroonians actually did not move their guts to do something. And I wanted them to do that. I actually encouraged them to do that, and I gave them ideas to do that. Most important idea, because most of the people arrested by Bamileke, was indeed the traditional way Bamileke people organize, which is tontine. So I asked them to organize themselves in tontines, and since then they did. That is the happiest story ever. They did across the board, they did across continents, they did across countries, families, etc. In the US, in France, in Switzerland, we had the biggest marches of the Cameroonian community since Cameroon exists. We are talking here about thousands of people who walked on the street to protest, and most of them had t-shirts written on it, Je suis Camto, I am Camto, which is the organization that I was calling for. It means people reacted, and we are now organized. We are now organized. I was asking the question, what did the government do in front of that accusation of genocide from the US and from Switzerland? One journalist, David Ibutu, went in my archives and took an old video of mine, that video where I was calling people, asking them to organize, and cut it in pieces, twisted it, as one can say, transformed it into what it is not, and wrote an article saying that I am calling Bamileke people to organize a genocide against Bulu people. Now you have to remember that the accusation of genocide is not something that should be taken lightly, particularly because the Cameroonian government is accused of genocide. Now the machinery of genocide, the way it is organized in Cameroon, is that a specific tribe, the tribe of the president, has the overhand on the military. The tribe of the president actually has the overhand over the administration. It has the overhand over the social services. It can actually do what it wants. And if you go to any office, official office in a public office in Cameroon, you will see that the language that is spoken is the tribal dialect of the president himself, which is to say that people of his tribe have populated the administration totally, have occupied the military, and indeed are a militia inside the army. So they are the ones, the very ones who commit the genocide in the southwest and the northwest. They are the very ones who burn villages, who kill grandmothers, who shot children, who shoot their way through landscapes. They are the very ones who actually commit ethnic cleansing. They are the very ones who, as a matter of fact, commit a genocide. So the journalist who puts pieces from one of my old videos together, he himself is of that ethnic group. He himself is Bulu, because the president is Bulu. He himself comes from the group that actually has the overhand over the military, the administration, and the social service. He himself comes from the group that through the state is committing a genocide in the northwest and the southwest. So that is one of the things that is important to underline. But yet, how does the Cameroonian government come into it? It comes into it like this. After David Ibutu's article, the first reaction came from one public intellectual in Cameroon, one of those who have been advocating for the genocides from the very beginning, who had tagged Anglophones as Biafrans, and who had actually made it possible long before the genocide, for it to have an intellectual basis. But at the same time, that public intellectual, Mathias Eric Nganang being the one I'm talking about, who has been really who has been actually arguing against Bamileke people, against Maurice Kamto, against his party, against any undertaking of the people of his creed, if you want, and against the people who are currently in jail. So, which is to say, the first reaction to substantiate, or let's say to support, not substantiate, to support David Ebitu came from Matthias Eric Onankine. The second came from Gregoire Oona, who is Minister of Works. Gregoire Oona himself, a Bulu. So, as you can see, the construction of the government's reaction to genocide is one of the most astonishing things I've ever seen in my whole life. Now, after that, it went very fast. So my name was everywhere in the news in Cameroon, headlining newspapers saying that I am calling up Bamileke people to organize a genocide against Bulu people. And even the government newspaper, the main newspaper of the government, Cameroon Tribune, headlined me saying that Cameroonians are, against a genocide. I am organizing and masterminding a genocide against Bulu people. And you remember, they are the ones who are actually committing a genocide in the Northwest and the Southwest as we speak. So not only a minister, not only the government and newspaper, but also 10 representatives from the South, and Bulu representatives, they named themselves, and they are from the South, from the Bulu tribe. They wrote a long piece saying that that one should know that one doesn't have the monopoly of violence, in a sense threatening to kill or to use violence against an unarmed population. So I always remember that on January, the people who were arrested had nothing but their voice, had nothing but their legs. I always remember that mobilizing people uses the old tool of organizing, which is to have people come together in tontine and put their money together to help each other. So I always remember that mobilizing people means having them actually stand up for their rights, have them express themselves, have them actually, carry out the basic function of what citizenship means. But all those things were or have been transformed in the state machinery, going from a journalist to a public intellectual to a minister, now to state representatives, to the government newspaper. All those things have been transformed into, the victim plotting, organizing a genocide against the criminal, into the Bamileke organizing a genocide against those who are effectively committing a genocide in the Northwest and the Southwest. So that is the reaction of the government to the accusation of genocide. One can say it is a distraction. It is a way of having a world attention look somewhere else. Look at me, if you want, as somebody who is also public, as somebody who is a writer, as somebody who has specific views about what is happening in Cameroon, one of which being that a change can only happen when Biya goes. One can also say that it is an attempt of a government that is actually, sentenced by history anyway, and that has been sentenced from the US to Switzerland. It is an attempt from that government to actually survive by looking for a scapegoat. But I think it is more vicious than that, because the strategy they are using is projection. It is a strategy that was used by the Nazis. It is a strategy that was used in Rwanda by the Hutu government before the genocide, long before the genocide itself. It is a strategy to accuse your enemy, if you want, of committing the crime you are actually planning or actually committing. So you remember that the Cameroon government is committing a genocide in Anglophone country. It's actually burning villages, doing ethnic cleansing there every single day. It is the same government that never talked about genocide, that actually made it impossible for Karen Bass to go and see for herself what is going there. It is the same government that is accusing Bamileke people of planning a genocide. Talking about projection, that is one of the most criminal chapters of projection that you may imagine. But the worst is yet to come, because as of today, I see that the government is actually arming itself. The government is actually mobilizing the population, particularly in the Bulu part of the country, to arm itself. I see that the government is actually even accusing activists who have marched in Paris, in Washington DC, in Geneva, accusing those activists who are using and who will ever use the most non-violent tools that you have, which is to demonstrate. The government is accusing them of having actually had an attack on a military barrack in Yaoundé, and of having one gendarme killed. So that is a momentous development in that whole story, because it is the same accusation that Biya used on November the 30th, 2017, to start the war against Anglophones. It is the same accusation that he used to kickstart what has become a genocide. So I just wanted to say that what is happening in Cameroon calls for the world attention. What is happening in Cameroon calls for your attention. What is happening in Cameroon is very grave. And please wake up. Please do something. Please do something before it is too late. Thank you very much.